We're going to talk about something now that has been very controversial out there in the world of the community of people who know who Vic Mignogna is. Am I saying his name right? Is it Mignogna?
It's Mignogna.
Mignogna.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mignogna. Mignogna.
Want to make sure I was pronouncing his name right. Um, Vic Mignogna is well known for Ruby and other voice acting. He's done what else has he done? He's done Dragon Ball Z as one of the characters, right?
He did Broly in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, and he's done a lot of he's a famous convention person. He's did Star Trek Continues as Captain Kirk, and he's done a lot of things. Recently, there's been an explosion in the community out there of well, I guess it's been building up now for the complaints have been building up for a long time, about 10 years, but now it's getting to the point where he's been let go from his animated series he was doing, Ruby, and he's been canceled convention after convention after allegations have come forward from numerous sources that he has sexual harassment, improper behavior, and a long list of things. I've met Vic only one time on the GNT show. When we did a 24 Hours of GNT special, I did fireball shots along with Nick Manessi, and well, he was not with me, but he was doing shots too. And me and Ross, former host, he was there too, and we talked a lot with Vic, and it was fun, and it was great. And I always thought he was awesome, and I was very disappointed. And then the more and more people spoke up, it turned out there was a long list of complaints that people had ignored, and now it's all coming out at once, and it's sort of like Bill Cosby. It's sort of like all these things coming out. It's like, I thought at first, okay, I'm really hoping that this is just an isolated couple of people not liking a hug from Vic. As more and more evidence came out, I'm a little overwhelmed. I want to start with Shawn on this one, because I know, Shawn, you have some strong feelings about this.
Well, I do, and here's the thing. It's for full disclosure here that I've been a fan. I'm not an anime fan. I've been a fan of Vic simply for his Star Trek Continues fan film project that he's had going for a few years now, and I've been a donor to that. And one thing that stands out is, and this is not to take away from Star Trek Continues at all, because Star Trek Continues isn't one guy. Star Trek Continues is a crew of many people who I call friends, good friends, in fact. And it shouldn't be nothing should be taken away from that. But I've spent time with Vic. Not much. I've met him on 2 occasions. The first time he actually was with he and a few members of the cast of Star Trek Continues, and of course Gary Graham was with us of Axonar, and of course Star Trek Enterprise and other Star Trek series fame. And we went to a party at this was at STLV 2016, the 50th. And we went to a party, and a big suite was rented out for a party, and in the Rio, and it was a great time. And that was really the extent of. And I didn't really hang. I was with Vic with that, but I was really more hanging out with the other, because I knew other people better. I've run into him. Ran into him again last year, and I think the year before too, at STLV, and that's really it. Say hi, and honestly, the guy probably wouldn't even remember. But that's neither here nor there. My feeling on this is that I was more than willing to give Vic the benefit of the doubt until the cascade of stories came forward. And here's the thing about it. My feeling on this is that if you've got an isolated story here or there, if it's an issue of a hug, okay, I get why people might be uncomfortable about that. But we're talking about a lot more than hugs. And what we're talking about here are women who have all consistent stories. They have, it shows a pattern of consistent behavior. And, the argument that I see, and I've seen it for guys like Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, is that, well, we need to try this in a court of law. Well, here's the thing. These incidents, because of statute of limitations, may never see the light of day in a court of law. And it's more about a culture, an atmosphere that has been condoning this for decades, and it seems to be
And
that
the age of the victims, they don't know that they've had something wrong done to
well,
them at first.
that's exactly it. In this case, we're talking about a lot of fans that are underage, that are minors, they're
They
teenagers.
come forward like later when they start to become aware of what they should have said back then. That's why.
Right, and because it's confusing. They don't they really don't understand. They have the maturity to appreciate this, and even adult women. When you think you're in a normal situation, it becomes not normal very quickly. You don't know what to do, especially if it's someone you admire. And we did see, uh, along with this, people who have worked with him professionally that have had similar stories.
Men have come forward and witnessed him doing this behavior, and many of them have said they're speaking up now too, saying, you know what,
well,
yeah,
and it's true. And I myself know of people who know him personally that have requested at this time that they don't want to be involved in this, but they've told me horror stories, and they know Vic quite intimately. And I'm no one's beyond reproach is what it comes down to. And really, this is we're seeing this where you have men in power who get a certain level of power in their particular part of the entertainment industry, and it's whatever it is in their personality. It's not all men that do this. It's just whatever it is with their particular personality, whatever flaws they have. This is like it's like an open door to behave badly. It's an for this inclination. Yeah, I mean, once it opens for them, it can't be closed. And I'm not it's I think that at this point, this is it's clear that there is a basis for these allegations, and it's going to cascade. I think we're going to hear it's going to be even worse and worse for Vic at this point. And hey, that's the chips are going to fall where they're going to fall. It's what it comes down to.
Absolutely. We're going to keep following this story because it is ongoing as far as there's a laundry list of allegations and they go back 10 years. And there's a lot of women that have posted about this on blogs, and people are responding to it now. And they're going. And one woman I watched in a link in one of her threads says, "I haven't talked about this for 10 years, and you guys ripping on me now. It's not like I'm coming out trying to just cash in on this. I get nothing out of coming forward. I talked about this. You guys are responding to a blog. I last made an entry 10 years ago, and now you're ripping on me because you think I have an agenda. This was 10 years ago before even Me Too even existed."
Yeah, and there's women out there. There's one woman who posted her story when she was a sophomore in high school, and when back in 1989, and the amount of hate she's getting for this, and she had no reason to come forward before now. And again, the story is consistent with everything we know, and of course, the hate that these people are getting from these supporters of Vic. And to Vic's credit, he has come out very vocally and condemned that behavior. I will give him credit for that. But again, it's the nasty side of fandom that you're seeing pop up when these type of things happen, and it's quite unfortunate.
Carlos, I want to ask your view on this next because I know you have had to tackle people as a reporter, but I know you have some feelings about this too. That what is your take on all this?
Well, I come at it from two perspectives. One is I do know Vic. We have worked together in the past, and we've stayed in touch. We're not close friends, but we're good acquaintances, I would say. And I worked with him on an episode of Star Trek New Voyages, probably about 10 years ago, close to 10 years ago now, and had a pretty positive experience with him, as many have. So this is a case of this happening to someone whom I know. So I have that perspective and feelings about that I have to reconcile with an emerging set of evidence and stories that I don't think it's responsible to ignore. I don't. I mean, I do want to be prudent about not jumping onto bandwagons too quickly, but at the
Yeah,
same
I understand
time,
that. Yeah.
at the same time, I think we do live in a society of toxic masculinity that silences women, especially the younger the woman, the more pressure they feel against them to stay quiet.
Not just
And
women, but young boys too.
Yes, and I think we can get to that as well. I think in some ways young boys even well, I shouldn't say, I don't want to be comparative about it, but it makes sense to me why young boys would also feel pressure to keep it quiet. But the difference I do think between the two is one just of numbers. This is something that is baked into our society around masculinity that makes many men doubt these kinds of stories. And I can't tell you, and this is the second part that troubles me, is the reactions that I've been reading online from people who are like, there's no evidence. And it's like, I hate to tell you this, but testimony is evidence, number one. And he's not being tried in a court of law. So the whole notion of innocent until proven guilty doesn't apply in the court of public opinion, for good or for ill. It's a different kind of court. No one is trying to put him in jail so far.
Is it comparable? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but is it comparable to the mounting complaints one would get from, say, a Department of Humans or HR from a job? Because it's mostly jobs that have been reacting to this. Because conventions, his gigs like animated shows, they're the ones reacting to the mounting complaints, like as if you were at a workplace, and they are taking their proper due diligence to and taking those on board and making a decision that there's enough evidence to let you go. It's not, you don't have to go to court over that. That's
exactly.
It's an interior decision based on the people that would rather disassociate from Vic. Is that
fair?
Yeah,
I think what a lot of people who are making these claims about innocent until proven guilty and he shouldn't be kicked from his
it's not
different
like he's going to go
jobs
to jail.
and so forth.
He just isn't getting gigs.
Right, but if that's your livelihood, that's a big kick in the face.
That literally cripples your livelihood.
I understand that, but it is sort of an internal job.
Right. Well, but let's drill down on that a little bit, George, because
Sure.
I think what people who are making these claims are forgetting is that there is enough testimony out there from enough people, not just fans at conventions, but people who have worked alongside him on these various projects, that these companies can't ignore it. If they have a reasonable reasons to believe that there's a problem here, if something were to happen in the future, then they could be legally liable because they ignored all of this mounting evidence. So there's an economic reason for them to have to think about the bottom line of their company if they were to retain him in the face of all this mounting evidence.
Right, and what I would like to point out is that this short-sighted argument that keeps getting floated out there about the courts, it's the same short-sighted argument. It's the same mindset for people who say that that Roseanne or Phil Robertson, their free speech is being denied because their respected networks fired them. No, that's not how it works. Okay, it's only time your free speech is infringed upon is by the government. Okay, when it comes to a corporate decision because you're making the company look bad or putting the company at risk, they have every right to terminate their association with you.
Absolutely. You don't have freedom of speech at a workplace. And what's happening to Vic is, okay, you can argue the fact he's being blacklisted, but the thing is that mounting evidence of that backlog all the way 10 years have to do with his convention appearances. So the conventions have a responsibility to look at it like, hey, we keep hiring you to come to we pay you to come to our conventions, and the convention goers who pay to come to the conventions are the ones complaining. So therefore, we have to react to this, or we're not we're going to look bad as a company.
Well, it's not just looking bad; they are legally exposing
liable.
Yeah.
That's an important thing to remember here.
Absolutely.
And another
they have to provide a space that's safe.
Well, and another thing I'd like to point out too is that this isn't really a matter of jumping to conclusions, because there's a common thread with all these claims, and that's what my litmus test as a casual observer is that are we
Do we
seeing?
want to mention her
Are we
Twitter?
seeing?
Is she
Let
okay?
him
I'm
let him finish.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Are we seeing a repeated pattern of behavior? Are we seeing a pathology here? And that's what's most concerning to me. We did with Kevin Spacey, we did with Bill Cosby, we did with Harvey Weinstein, and now, based on all these testimonials, we're seeing it with Vic as well. And it's unfortunate, but it is a reality.
The only difference I would argue, not argue, I want to point out, it's not an argument, is the way Vic is publicly responding is a little bit, a lot of bit better than people like Kevin Spacey, who obviously, that's all.
No, I mean, I'm
You know what I
glad you're
mean.
bringing this up because that's another layer to this. The whole how is he responding to it?
I've had women
Go ahead and finish,
come
and then
forward.
I'll chime in.
All right, I've had women come forward.
I'm sorry. I really want to butt him right now on this because Vic's basic response is that I come from a touchy huggy family, and I'm sorry if I ever made anyone feel appropriate. Well, honestly, fuck that shit. Okay.
Well, Shawn, I'm going to butt in
the
on
same-
you because I want to mention
that is the same kind of crap that Kevin Spacey came up with.
exactly. That's a common
and
answer.
Bill Cosby. It's nonsense.
It's
And
an apology
not-
without an apology. It's a non-apology.
It's not taking responsibility.
Right,
Okay,
it's what they call a non-apology. It's a common trope, I guess, that people in the convention worlds, or not just convention worlds, but in the Me Too movement, are looking at is when people.
Politicians do it all the time.
Yeah, I know
the
that.
non-apology apology.
The non-apology apology.
It basically goes like this: I apologize if you feel bad.
I apologize.
Exactly.
Which is like
I watched a cringeworthy video where on YouTube where Vic addressed and he started crying. This going on. How could you people?
Yeah, I saw that.
I did that. Anyways, I'm not trying. This is not about ripping on Vic as far as making a judgment, but we're just discussing the fact that there's a lot of evidence this is going on. And
I'll make a judgment.
Look, all these conventions.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. At this
not
point.
just the conventions, but his job that he had an ongoing thing on for that Ruby.
I didn't have a chance to speak, but
I'm gonna let you. I was getting to you next. Like I said in the thing. I'm going to you next, Raul, because I know you have a lot to say about this. That's why I'm gonna hit you in a second. But Vic, his response, he's been fired from his ongoing gig. That is a professional thing, and then the conventions are an at-will hire thing that they one by one just drop, and this has been going on for years. Even before this big release of information recently, they were already starting to drop him. So it just mounted to the point where it became newsworthy. And so this is like, should he be tried in court? All the people defending him. Look, the bottom line is that you don't need to go to court over this because he's not going. There's no risk of jail. He's not being sued. He's just being dropped from jobs. He's being blacklisted from. Okay, yes, he can. His argument is his livelihood. Well, you know what? He also keeps pointing out how he was thinking about dropping out of doing this to go to ministry is a whole different thing. So I don't think and his ministry backs him up. So I don't really think he's going to be in too bad of a shape at the end of all this. But Raul, I want you to speak up and tell us what you had to say because I know you had a passionate opinion about this whole general topic.
Men like Vic, men who are in power, and then abuse that power, break the trust of people beneath them. And I'm not saying beneath them in a role class. I'm saying in a situation. This particular topic and the thing that you guys didn't address, which I've been very quiet. I've been waiting. Is that these men, in particular men, but I'm sure that there's women as well, because this is a human condition. This is not a strictly male condition, and women can be abusive as well as men. But the truth is that when you have this power and you abuse it, there is almost no forgiveness. There's no oh, I'm sorry, that'll be better. It'll be better if you say I'm sorry, or you make it up financially or whatever, because you have broken a trust, and once that trust is broken, there's a chain reaction of breaking. It's not just Vic is a danger here. It's the victims of Vic that are in danger as well. His followers have made that very clear, doxing people, threatening them, making their life hell, on social media. So really, it's a chain reaction of breaking that starts with one person. One person and one person alone holds that power. It's the person doing it, the aggressor. That's what I wanted to say.
You're completely right. And whether or not, I mean, people have come. So when we were going to talk about this, I talked to a few people who've been through this, not with Vic personally necessarily, but in general. There's been a lot. This has been the thing, the convention mob, the mentality. I asked them. I say, well, what have you experienced? You know, things like that. And some of them, most of them won't come on. Even the ones who've talked to Vic. I think Shawn, someone told you that too. They're like, people don't want to get involved. Now, there's the thing. You don't have to take sides. Doesn't mean, unless you're personally affected by it, that doesn't mean you have to take sides. Some people just don't want to get involved unless it becomes overwhelming. The thing with the Vic situation is that we're hearing a lot of testimony. Like, there are a lot of testimonies. And, you know, Arthur Conan Doyle said something like, I'm going to misquote it. I'm going to paraphrase it. Something about, like, along the lines of, in court, like, if there's too much coincidence, or too much coincidence becomes, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's like when there's too much coincidental testimony.
How about this? When you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth.
That's a good one, but this had something to do with the fact that when there are too many coincidences, too many circumstantial things, it gets too crazy. It's like it has to be something there.
A better reference would be how many grains of sand make a pile.
Yeah. That's actually a good comparison. But when you get an overwhelming amount of testimony that goes back 10 years, and this is before, everybody keeps going, oh, it's the Me Too thing. You know, they're just trying to jump on that bandwagon. It's not a bandwagon.
It's a matter of women are finally starting to feel like they have a voice.
And so many men have come forward and told me, not me, they didn't reach out to me, like I've seen it, and then I've talked to some people and said, oh, let me tell you what I've seen firsthand, how he treated... I mean, seriously.
Yeah, look.
Yeah, Shawn, you've heard these stories too.
I've heard in way worse. Okay, but here's the thing about, again, I'm going to point this out. This is what my deciding factor is. My litmus test. It's the consistent nature of the behavior. It's the consistent MO. Okay, the game plan, as it were. That I keep hearing the same types of things over and over and over again. And, you know, and of course, I know people that very close to Vic that have firsthand knowledge and have dealt with this firsthand. So but this goes, it's like Raul said, you know, you're in a position of power and you've broken a trust, and that can't be unbroken. And what bothers me about the statements by Vic is that under no circumstances, no matter what you say, is there any scenario where you should come off as sounding like you're the victim? And that's what I'm seeing him doing.
Especially that video, yeah.
And that's what others have done as well in this situation. His best bet, and this is just me personally being objective about this, his best bet is to just shut up.
Shut up and go away. Yeah.
And go away. Right. And hopefully figure out a way to salvage whatever you have, a little left you have of your career after all of this. Figure something out, but just don't say another word about it.
And he has kind of been doing that, except for the videos. Oh, I found that
except for those videos, which are a big deal.
They were the worst because it was one thing to say something in text, but you see his face, and and he had like a panel of like 5 people listening to him in the video, and most of them were women. But
he tried to get in front of it when it first came out a month ago. He tried to get in front of it with this statement, and the thing about it is that his statement, I don't even think he realized it. He brought more attention to the story with that statement than the story had. He gave that story more life. Is the thing. And
surprise sound effect.
What my thing about that is, it's like that. It's when it's a pathology here. It's like guys like this, they don't seem to realize that you're not making it better. You're just making yourself look worse.
I found the Sherlock Holmes quote: "Circumstantial evidence is a very tricky thing. It may seem to point very straight to one thing, but if you shift your own point of view a little, you may find it pointing in an equally uncompromising manner to something entirely different."
I'm not sure how that relates to this.
I was just about to say, I'm not sure how that applies. I found it and I was excited, but then I'm reading it, I'm like, eh. Anyways, yeah.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, so yeah, see, for me, I thought, yeah, I had a little hero worship of Vic, you know, not as much as James Colley, haha. No, not haha, but, you know, we talked about this on a former episode, because he's motherfucking Elvis. Anyways.
But it's the thing about it. Look, I have a ton of respect for the body of work of Kevin Spacey and Bill Cosby.
Oh, and that's a good point you're about to bring up. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, we have to separate what we enjoyed about their art from who they are as people. You know, it's disappointing, yeah, but it's life. I mean, I'm not. Really,
I'm going to disagree a little bit with you there, Shawn, because I think it's easy to be able to say to think that you can so easily separate an artist from his art, but a person's art comes from who they are, and so it's hard to, like, I myself, I couldn't watch another episode of the Cosby Show again. It just
I completely then
the
way this came out then that was the point I was getting to. What I meant to say is really when it comes down to what we had in the past from that. I'm the same way. I've got a collection of probably about 5 or 6 films with Kevin Spacey in my collection. I'll never watch again. I can't even watch 7 again, and that really just pisses me off.
I actually have a personal connection to Kevin Spacey.
But that's my point, though, is here that it's like, you know, these people, yes, they gave us great entertainment, but at the end of the day, they very well may be monsters. And, you know, my more point was that we need to realize that, okay, and separate it from that level, because I'm the same way. I can't enjoy any of this anymore, knowing what these people have been involved in.
When I went back in about, I think it was 2003, whatever year it was that he made this movie, Kevin Spacey, my ex-wife's cousin was an artist who he ended up becoming the person that draws all the concept art for one of Kevin Spacey's movies. It was whatever the movie was he did with Glenn Close back in that time frame. I don't remember, but I remember
what happened.
I met him, and I at the time he was awesome. You know, obviously this all came out years later. So like Vic, it's like, you know, everybody was proud. Oh, Jonathan. His name is Jonathan. He's introduced us to Kevin Spacey, an actor, and we're in Maine. He was like, we met him, and it was awesome. And then years later, you find out this happened, and I'm sure everybody that has met people like Bill Cosby and everybody else are going to have the same feelings, like that. You know, how do we react to, you know, I have their collections, and how do I separate the character they played on the screen and the art that they created, or if it was a musician or somebody that did something horrible, like say a musician you loved murdered their wife in a drug haze or something, do you suddenly not like their music? That's a really hard question.
Yes, that's exactly
I think you
what
have to. I think you have to go with what you feel. I mean, you either can or you can't.
I think there's no wrong answer.
I don't think there's a right answer to that. I don't.
You know, although, you know, people may challenge you to justify it, and honestly, if someone said to me, well, you know, I'm still enjoying the Cosby Show, I would probably challenge them on it. I'm like, you're sort of blinding yourself to something if you're continuing
no more.
To
but there's
watch
other
it.
actors. Okay, but Carlos, my argument with that is that there are other actors. You can, yeah, go ahead.
But putting $1 more, you know, somebody like Woody, what's his name? Director that slept with his.
Oh, Woody Harrelson.
Woody Allen.
Yeah, Woody Allen.
Woody Allen. Yeah, I'm sorry.
If somebody asked me to go see a Woody Allen movie, I would literally say I'm not putting $1 more in that man's bank.
But there's
account.
other people in that production.
It doesn't matter. Those people are equally comparable. Or Roman Polanski. I don't see Roman Polanski movies.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and I totally respect your feeling on that. But my argument when it comes to a movie versus like a song a guitarist would play is there are multiple actors and production crew that were involved.
And
not
they know what
just,
they're doing. They know what they're doing. Yes,
No, at the
that
time
Not-
it happened.
not
of
always,
this comes
but-
No,
out.
Carla.
A lot of this comes. Can I
Rain
say?
Raul.
Yeah, a lot of this comes out years ahead of what people knew way back when.
Okay, but you're talking like overlapping. I'm talking like the earlier days before it comes out of an actor, or let's say like the crew of the Cosby Show during that whole era. They had no clue what was going on. They didn't. The kids,
The black community knew for years, George.
Oh my God. Okay, this could drag on for a long time.
The
My
point is people
yeah.
are going to feel differently about this, and these are good conversations to have.
Yeah.
Even if we end up not agreeing, it's better that we talk about this stuff than not talk about this
Yes,
stuff.
I agree. The
Because we
conversation.
all need to be sensitized to these issues. We're going to probably come to some different conclusions. I mean, as I've been challenged a few times online about why haven't I been more vocal about condemning Vic or whatever. And it's like, my feeling is there are no winners here. No one is a winner.
Right.
Because he goes down or because, the victims have come forward. I mean, everyone loses in this.
Yeah, and another side of those too is that like I said, I know a lot of people from the Star Trek Continuous crew, and I have myself. I will comment on other people's posts on this issue online, but I'm not starting my own because I've got plenty of friends that are involved with Star Trek Continues who I don't want to alienate. Is what it comes down to. I mean, they're stuck. They're in an unfortunate situation here that they're wrapped up in this whirlwind due to no fault of their own. So it's a very difficult line to walk.
Son, what do you think about all this?
I honestly haven't seen the evidence that other people are talking about. I have only ever seen
I'll link it to you sometime.
snippets. I've only ever seen snippets of people who go, I saw this and I felt uncomfortable. And
all right, I have a link I'll send you later.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. But all I have ever seen of this has been other people's third-party accounts of, I saw this going on and I felt uncomfortable.
And
that's, I'm sorry. Yeah, you
I
can
understand
hype that up all you want, but
I've paid very little attention to that. I've paid attention to the first-person accounts. And
Yeah,
a lot of
agreed.
them.
Again,
Right.
I've not seen a single first-person
They're out
account.
there. Do yourself a little Google search.
You know, the funny part is, and I'm not going to go too long into this, but the person who provided the information was Mr. Alex Peters. And believe it or not, the Google Drive link, he encouraged me to share it. It has 1 trillion first-hand, like Carlos and Sean were saying, first-hand accounts of, they go back 10 years.
Okay.
There's about 50 of them. And it's crazy.
Oh my God! Talk about people living in glass houses.
I know.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember, and again, this is not
Consider
to
that
discount
source.
the accounts of victims, but there's a definite agenda behind Alec Peters.
I know.
putting
I'm
that out there
just saying that the
people should
link
be
provided
aware of.
gave a series of information.
Can I speak now?
I should share
Can
my
I speak
Internet
now?
Archive link.
Yeah,
Yes, please, son. I want to hear what you
can
have
I
to say.
speak now? Thank you.
Yes, you can.
Thank you. Okay. The first time that I saw any of this was an article from Anime News Network, who posted a whole bunch of pictures and shared those people's stories, apparently. And I say apparently because not 24 hours later, they were literally having to remove people's pictures because the people in those pictures actually got in contact with people around or at Anime News Network to say, hey, what you're doing isn't right because I asked for those pictures and I was completely okay with these pictures. So there's a lot of false blaming also going on, and it does nothing to the credibility. It does nothing but damage the credibility of actual allegations.
Son, I 100% agree with you. That has been a big problem with this story from the beginning when it was picked up by quite frankly, the anime outlets. Okay, they were piling on so badly that it did an incredible disservice to the actual victims. And it wasn't just about those type of photos where they were clearly posed for, and they were making more out of them than they were. It was also this nonsense about his quote unquote anti-Semitic statements and his homophobic
Right. Yeah.
statements. I mean, it was piling on. Okay, and it did a disservice to the actual victims. And you're right. What happens in these situations is when these outlets try to pile on for whatever notoriety they can get to sensationalize these stories, they make people go, well, if that's not true, if that's not accurate, that's sensationalized.
Right.
What else is
It
sensationalized?
blankets
And
the
I get
whole. Yeah.
right, and I get a big problem with that too. I totally agree with you on that. For
I-
somebody, this is with Son. For somebody who hasn't seen all the testimony, your insight I think is spot on this.
Well, see, I look at it. I look at it from a pragmatic standpoint. If he's guilty, he's guilty. He's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life. He's going to have to live for the damage that it's done to his career and all of that stuff for the rest of his life. At the same time, it does nobody any good to lie about the situation. And that's
Right.
what brings me to the other problem that I have a really huge problem with, is that I don't know who this guy is. I just saw the tweet of this thing, and I don't remember the guy's name, but apparently he was a fellow voice actor with Vic. And they
Yeah.
were supposedly at a convention and were hyping up the crowd, and Vic jumped on his back, and now he
I
claims
saw
that
that.
he was
Yeah.
sexually assaulted by Vic's crotch.
His fellow voice actress on Ruby came forward too, and people are saying she's just trying to take over his position or something.
Yeah, I saw the thing about the guy complaining, and I watched the video, and I'm going, what the hell? I mean, it was horseplay. It was foolishness. And he's sitting there going, yeah, well, I had Vic's junk rubbed up against my neck. He was wearing Blue James, dude.
He
Chill
wasn't even
out.
wearing. Yeah.
I mean,
But that's
Well, here's the thing, though.
diminishes
Those
the
stories
story.
don't discredit the other victims. I mean, the real victims. And they shouldn't discredit the real victims. They're just irrelevant. They're beside the point. They're tangential. So I hear them, I'm like, fine, whatever, you don't count. But there are plenty of other accounts that are that have a lot of credibility, come from credible people that we should pay attention to, and we shouldn't ignore simply because irrelevant people have chimed in.
Right, but here's the problem with that, Carlos. It's not, and I totally agree with you on that. But the problem we have is that it gives fodder to those people that would dismiss these claims outright.
Absolutely,
to begin
and
with.
I watched.
And they've got these big. They're always the loudest people on social media. We see it with everything. It's like it reminds me of, I always tell people, when you're talking about Trump, okay, don't make shit up about Trump. There's plenty to have a problem with Trump without making shit up, because all that does is give fodder to the diehard
When he says
Trump
false,
supporters.
yeah.
Exactly.
It's
Right.
like a joke Dayton Ward made today on Facebook. He said Saturday Night Live should just not stop making up skits. Just use the actual factual news as your skit, and then have Trump come forward and say, "See, they're faking my stuff," because it's not. They're not. You don't need to fake it. He gives plenty of his own material for them to use. So it's the same idea. What you just said.
Yeah, I mean, in principle, Carlos is absolutely correct. They are irrelevant, but it gives fodder to these people
But
that
again,
would
yeah,
with
that-
their own agenda.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Again, this is why people go back to. This is why you have the people that go back to the "it should be tried in court," because shit like this, that's actual false stuff, carries weight in a court of public opinion.
You have to privately sue those people for disparagement and things like that. You can't, or whatever the term is.
But no, you could legally sue Vic if you think you've been sexually assaulted.
Oh, I thought you meant the other way around. Vic is suing the other people. His followers, by the way, I took one day last week, and I was like bored. Well, I wasn't bored. I just had an agenda. I looked through all the YouTube channels where people are like support Vic and versus the people that are, fire Vic or whatever the term is, the hashtag. And
Kick Vic.
Yeah, kick Vic. I got to tell you, the pro Vic people are going out of their way to troll anybody and everything that says anything about Vic. Our show is
Yes,
probably
they
going to
are.
get trolled. I'm just letting you know. They're going to perceive this as an anti-Vic, even though we're just reporting. They're going to attack us if they see anything that represents.
I honestly don't give a shit.
I don't either. I'm just saying.
At this point,
we talked about whether we were ready for this, and I said I don't.
Hey,
bring it up.
let me tell you something. I've gotten trolled by Reese Watkins and Alec Peters. And
so have I. When I did that Batman animated thing,
I can handle this crowd.
I had 500 haters like commenting nonstop when I did that Batman animated thing where he was trolling Axonar and all that.
At this point, I have one huge criticism for all the Vic defenders on YouTube.
Or victims.
Stop mocking the people who you're quoting, because that destroys your argument.
Yep, that is a common theme.
They're doing like a locust swarm type tactic. Attack and try to discredit everybody that tries to post something.
No, it's not even that. It's that they will quote somebody and they will go, they'll make up a voice for quoting that person.
Oh, I see.
Oh well, I felt that this made me very uncomfortable. And then they'll continue talking like normal as they try to disprove anything. And it's like, stop doing that. If you believe you have a solid argument, just present the quote as normal. Making up voices for this shit discredits your argument.
This is a good topic, and we're going to keep following the news because there's always going to be more coming out on this. Let's wrap it up here, but we started the conversation, and we will continue the conversation as needed. I have a feeling that obviously there's going to be more and more information that will come out later. And we'll just keep an eye on it and see what happens. It's worth talking about because it's not just about us bashing Vic. That's not why we're doing this. This is to just the discussion. And there's been a lot going on in the background of these conventions, and people need to realize that if someone comes forward and says, "I'm a teenage girl and I feel weird about what just happened," you need to listen to them, not just go, "Oh, you're being dramatic." So it's important. These things need to be talked about. And these conventions that are taking action, like Carlos mentioned, they're responsible for that. Hopefully we've heard cosplayer abuse and all these things happening, and things need to get, hopefully things are going to change going forward to make it safer, and not assume that a celebrity is not incapable. You need to keep an eye on everybody, not just...
Well, to be fair, I want to point this out. This is the thing, is that it's far worse than what him getting too touchy-feely with people doing photo
We've only touched the surface of all the claims.
Right, exactly. And
I read that one woman's account of her childhood and all that.
But I want, as a grown man, I'm 43 years old, and I can't imagine, going up to a kid, somebody's child like that, and posing like that with somebody's kid. Okay, yeah, I get it. I get that they're in anime and they're at the convention, everything that's out. But I think even if it's not, if nothing illegal is done, it's certainly, a lot of this seems inappropriate. Even if these girls say, "Well, wait a minute, take these photos down," I was fine with them at the time they were taken. That's not really. I raised a teenage. You have a daughter, Shawn. Yeah, that's not really the point. It comes down to, you're a grown man. You should know what's inappropriate, right, and what's not.
And as two people that have fathered daughters, like your daughter's, how old is she? Well, you don't have to tell me.
She's 12.
Okay, she's getting into the teenage years. My daughter is married and she's 27 now. I solo raised her as a teenager, and I had to worry. I was always paranoid about predators out there grabbing her, throwing her in a van, let alone finding out about this stuff. Imagine if she would go into commission and I come to find out later this stuff was happening.
Right, and you.
If I had a teenage daughter now, I'd be paranoid.
Right, as a father, you sit here and you go, if something like that happened to your kid at a convention, where they really don't have any control over it. They're just this adult man who they idolized as behaving like this, and then you're hearing about it after the fact. You can't even do anything. It's a parent. So
we'll definitely touch back on this, but we are out of time. We got to wrap this up. So it's a sensitive subject. We'll talk about this in the future. Let's wrap this up though. Carlos, where can people find you on social media?
People can find me on Twitter at cpedraza and also at Axomonitor, on Facebook in the Axomonitor Facebook group, and on the axomonitor.com website.
All right. And what about you, Raul?
People can find me at Raul Padron in Arizona, Facebook.
All right. And Shawn?
Oh, you can find me daily, pretty much, at the X-Founder Facebook group, and that's about it.
And Son?
You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/SensialFan.
All right. And Super Geeks has a YouTube channel, TR Super Geeks. It is new, so we're just building it up. All the new stuff goes up there. And you can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/SuperGeeks7 and Subspace Radio, Mondays, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, if you want to listen to the episodes on the stream there. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. A lot of interesting topics tonight, but we'll talk to you guys the next time, and there's always going to be a next time.